General quarters.
Dive bomber squadron, flying out. Torpedo bomber squadron, airborne. Enemy target spotted. Team captured the area. Torpedo bomber squadron, take off. Attack target! Destroy the enemy ship! Enemy team captured the area. Torpedo bomber squadron, airborne. Torpedo bomber squadron, flying out. Dive bomber squadron, airborne. Target spotted. Enemy team captured the area. Our team captured the area. Attack target! Torpedoes! We're under attack! Target locked. Enemy aircraft incoming! Target hit! Dive bomber squadron, take off. Enemy aircraft incoming! Torpedo bomber squadron, airborne. Enemy aircraft incoming! Attack target! We're hit!
Hey everyone, it's DFA, welcome back to the channel, and that's the Furious in a nutshell, and as you probably guessed, it's not very good. Let's take a look at its stats. And here we are, this is the Furious against the other tier 6 CVs, Ryujo Independence and Löwenhart, and we notice that the survivability is actually quite nice. The maneuverability is pretty average, top speed is good but the maneuverability is not. And the guns, they're also not very good, 14,000 DPM, that's better than the Independence but that's worse than the other two. Okay, no secondaries obviously, and we come to the dive bombers. They're very British, meaning they drop a lot of bombs, but they also deal low damage, so they're not going to be super useful against armored targets. You have to use them against lighter targets, and they have a pretty decent DPM, 9,000 is actually quite good, but unfortunately you only get 10 of them, and the fire chance is actually quite low, so you have to be very, very careful with them, and playing the fire and flooding game, it's going to be quite complicated with them. The torpedo bombers, you only get 12 of them as well. Pretty low plane count, 2 squadrons of 2, that's quite complicated to manage as you have seen. So yes, they reload quite fast, but the torpedo damage is on the lower end. Still you have the decent DPM, but yeah, you really have to be careful with your 2 torpedo plane squadrons as well. And unfortunately the fighters, that's not very good, you only get 6 of them. And yeah, they do have a decent HP pool, but they are not dealing any damage. Check it out. Attack damage 200 versus the Ryujo's 284. It will take you forever to shoot down an enemy plane. The dogfight damage is a little bit better, but still it's going to be quite complicated, to be honest. The good news is you get decent AA. That's actually quite nice, because as you have probably guessed, your fighters are not going to stop many things from hitting you. And so here we are, gameplay against the Irish Löwenhart and a couple of battleships, light cruisers and destroyers. Pretty good matchmaking for the Furious, because we do not run the risk of losing our fighters unless we really do something stupid. Because yeah, it's quite an easy CV to counter the torpedo bombers. They require a lot of micromanagement, and that leaves the fighters quite vulnerable. If you're not careful, you can get debated, and if you lose one squadron, you only have 3 planes left for the rest of the game. So any other enemy CV, as soon as what is going, will simply force a dogfight with you, and that's it. You do not have any protection for your bombers, your torpedo bombers, and since you do not have too many of them, you will get deplaned very easily. So you have to be very careful with that thing. But okay, time to focus on the Furious, time to hunt those dive bombers while actually still have a chance of catching them. And while we are doing that, let's see if we can find the kamikaze and the cruisers, and sure enough there is the Devonshire. The dive bombers are going to do quite well against it. You see quite a lot of the bombs dealt full damage. And yes, the torpedo bombers, well, you have to micromanage them, so those 2 squadrons, it's not easy to get it right, to be honest. It's quite a lot of complications where you basically get a lot of disadvantages. There you go, that's the fighters trying to catch up with the torpedo bombers, and yeah, it's completely useless. Yep, there you go, we didn't shoot down a single plane in that run. That's absolutely that's absolutely depressing. But we did manage to get a flooding on that Devonshire. But yeah, we do have the kamikaze there, and we're going to attack them. Sure enough, maybe this time we'll be able to shoot down one plane. Who knows, we might get lucky. So yep, let's send our bombers against that Bretagne, and hopefully the kamikaze will not be very far, and we're going to trick him into thinking that we're attacking that Bretagne, and we're going to change our orientation at the last minute. Sure enough, there you go, the second squadron goes right on target, and the first one decides to take his sweet time, and we're probably going to miss this one. Oh, actually we don't. Oh, that's good. Very nice. Yep, the 2 squadrons can be super accurate, but you really have to get it one. Oh, there you go, hunting dive bombers for nothing as well. But we did manage to shoot down 2 planes this time, so that's good. So, you have to be careful with managing your squadrons. You do not send them, you try to send them grouped as much as you can, because if you send them one by one at the beginning of the game, you will get deplaned very quickly. And remember, you do not have a lot of planes. It's actually something that you need to keep an eye on during all the game with the Furious, because you really have to go out. There you go, kamikaze in a nice straight line, and that was totally not expected. Very good. So the Bretagne is deleted, we do not have... Well, let's focus the Prince Idol, that's a very dangerous target. I'm going to send one of the squadrons there, and hopefully my fighters will be able to reach the other side of the screen before the end of the game. Sure enough, here they do. But yeah, not a chance of protecting that New Mexico anyway, and there you go, they turn around and I've completely lost the bombers again. So, let's focus on what we actually can do, and let's target that Prince Idol, who's a little bit isolated, it's completely isolated, a very easy target for me. I'm still going to wait for all of my planes to be ready before sending them, because you want to preserve them as much as you can. And so we are leaving the, I would say, the upper side of the map to focus on that Prince Idol, because there it's a DD and the battleship against the heavy cruiser. It should be quite easy. Let's take a look at the torpedo bombers of the Furious in action. And to be honest, when I first saw in the ship description that there were 2 squadrons of 2 planes, I had to move to get into a training room to actually verify if it was not a mistake somewhere in the ship description. Because it's a very, very weird setup, and to be honest, I do not like it at all, simply because you do have to manage 2 squadrons, but you do not get any of the benefits, for example, that you will get on a Shokaku. Here where you can put quite a lot of torpedoes on target if you manage to do it right. If you do it exactly right, you will only be putting 4 torpedoes on target, and that's still not a lot for the extra complexity that it brings, to be honest. And so yes, it also means that the squadron reload a lot faster, but to be honest, you cannot use them, I would say, in an isolated way very often, simply because you will end up losing them very, very quickly. Yeah, the ships at tier 6 do not have a lot of AA, but still you have to be careful. And yeah, I actually got the plane a couple of times when I started playing the Furious. Here against the Löwenhardt, it's a lot easier for me. I do not have to account for enemy fighters. And still you do have to keep an eye on them, but then the opposition is actually quite gone, it's over, so we can be, well, first we're going to move forward, and second we're going to be using our squadrons in a much more aggressive way right now. I'm going to try to locate the enemy CV, because that is the preferred target for my dive bombers. I can actually deal quite a lot of damage to it, a lot more than on other battleships. Cruisers are also pretty nice targets for you, but there you go, the Löwenhardt a little bit too close to the action, and we're going to try to set him on fire and to flood him. So it's not a viable tactic with that ship. To be honest, the fire chance on the dive bombers, it's very, very low indeed. But when you manage to get one of these fires, you have to use it, and the good news is here we do manage to get a flooding, and let's try our luck with the next strike, and hopefully we can get a good result and a couple of fires on that Löwenhardt. And while we do just that, it's time to debrief the Furious. As you probably guessed, I do not like it at all. The fighters are completely useless, look at that. I've actually been hunting the planes of that Löwenhardt for the whole game, only managed to shoot down 7. So yeah, and I basically was not able to protect my fleet. Sure enough, double fire and maybe a flooding if you're lucky. There you go. The dive bombers are quite good, they're very British, so if you pick your targets correctly, then you will be able to inflict quite a lot of damage. Unfortunately, the fire chance is very, very low indeed, so yeah, it's I got a bit of luck left there, to be honest. The torpedo bombers, so yeah, you do get a lot of the complexity that comes with managing 2 squadrons with none of the benefits. Yes, you can, if you're super accurate and super experienced with them, you can get some really, really nice shots going on, but otherwise it's probably going to add more complexity than it should, to be honest. So the Furious, it gets outplayed by the Independence in competitive game mode, and honestly, the Löwenhardt is a lot more fun in non-competitive game mode. It's actually one of the funniest CVs to play. So there you go, it's in a very, very bad position, I'm afraid. So let's hope that the rest of the line will strike a better balance between complexity between, I would say, risk and reward. In the meantime, that was my review of the Furious. Hope you've enjoyed it. Stay safe, take care. That was DeathFromAbove signing out. Bye bye.